The following is a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about them Cowboys?
Yeah!
Go Cowboys!
This is Talkin Cowboys. Streaming live from the Dallas Cowboys World Headquarters at the Star in Frisco.
Street touchdown! Parsons has sacked it. Prescott keeps it, and he bangs it in for the touchdown.
And now, your hosts, Isaiah Stanback, Patrick Walker, and Kyle Yeomans.
It's time for an off-season edition of Talkin Cowboys, presented by Black Rifle Coffee Company, the official coffee of the Dallas Cowboys. Welcome into the SWBC studios at the Star in Frisco. We're about to break down more Cowboys news throughout the off-season. Of course, we are 16 days away from the NFL draft. We'll talk a little bit of draft, but we're going to talk a little bit of wide receiver today as well. Some news breaking, maybe not with the Cowboys, but around a potential Cowboys target at one point in time. Alongside Isaiah Stanback, Patrick No-C Walker, we've got Chris Beam running everything in the back. I'm Kyle Yeomans. Gentlemen, how we doing?
Fantastic.
How you doing, Isaiah?
I'm good, man. How about yourself?
I'm good.
Yeah.
So, as much as we miss talking about it, as much as we wanted to talk about it over and over and over and over again, and I mean, we built it into the rundown because that's exactly what fans want to hear, right? They want to hear about Odell Beckham Jr.
That's what they want.
And we miss talking about it.
That's what they want.
But guess what? That saga is officially over.
That's right.
The door is officially closed.
That's right.
Odell Beckham Jr. is signed with the Baltimore Ravens. The number is just staggering.
It's hard to say.
It said up. I didn't get their actual numbers. I heard the up to number.
It's 15 guaranteed.
Yeah.
$3 million
one year.
incentives.
Great job, front office.
Yeah.
So that was going to be the topic of conversation.
That is it.
Would you rather have Brandon Cooks, who you got this offseason, you had to trade a fifth-round pick for him, or would you rather have Odell Beckham Jr. and pay the price tag that the Ravens just paid for him? $15 million over 1 year, up to $18 million this season.
It's not that simple of a question, Kyle.
What do you mean?
You know why it's not that simple? It's not that simple.
It's so simple.
It's pretty simple.
It's pretty simple.
It's simple, but it's not simple.
Tell me why.
So complicated.
I'm going to complicate this thing. Listen up. With Brandon Cooks, right, half of his contract or a majority of his contract is being covered by his former team. Right?
Yeah.
So by having him on the team, you don't strap yourself, right? You don't hand strap yourself to not being able to acquire more people.
Right.
Okay, so by having Brandon Cooks, you have a deep threat, which is what you needed.
Sure.
Okay, you have somebody who's accomplished, which is what you needed. You have somebody who is smart, which is what you needed, who's going to allow for you to run the offense that you want to run. You have somebody who has multiple 1,000-yard seasons, which is what you wanted. Right? And all of a sudden, now you're still in a position where you can still go out and acquire more guys if you want to. Not only through the draft, but you can still go through free agency, should you please, and acquire more guys. Flip the script. You go over to Odell Beckham. Had you acquired Odell Beckham for the number that he was just acquired for by the Baltimore Ravens, you now are not in a position to go out and continue adding to that position group or any other position group. So I say it's not as simple because it's not as simple as a Brandon Cooks versus Odell Beckham. It's not just those two side by side. It's looking at it and saying, hey, what did the front office have to take into account to be able to make an educated, informed decision by making this decision to go with Brandon Cooks, who might not be as dynamic of a receiver as Odell Beckham has been at one point in time. We don't know where he's at now. However, he is good, pretty doggone good receiver. You add him to a roster that already has another really good receiver on your roster on the opposite side now, and you still can go add pieces. That's why I say it's not as simple, but it is simple.
You know what's funny to me, and I tweeted it, but I'm going to say it here again. Odell Beckham Jr., he hopped on Twitter when the rumors were running rampant that he was asking for close to $20 million, and he made sure that he tweeted, who said I was asking for up to $20 million? I'm just saying 4 is not enough. And fast forward to now, Baltimore Ravens, $18 million max value, 15 guaranteed. I know some people saying, oh, well, the 18 is the max value. Hear me out. 15 is guaranteed between his signing bonus and his 15 is guaranteed with an opportunity to earn up to 18. I would have preferred Brandon Cooks over a $12 million Odell Beckham Jr.
Yeah.
So I most certainly prefer him over a $15 million guaranteed Odell Beckham Jr. And that is before I start factoring in what you were talking about, Isaiah, what Kyle knows so eloquently. 2 torn ACLs, and he's over the 30-year-old horizon. Okay? But also, Brandon Cooks has 1 more 1,000-yard receiving season than does Odell Beckham Jr. So we know what Odell Beckham Jr. was in his prime, in his years with the New York Giants. But we also know that while he's still highly productive, he's also not that New York Giants guy. We don't know that Brandon Cooks is still not in his prime. Right? Brandon Cooks hasn't had durability issues.
He's well rested.
Season-ending issues, especially coming off of that, especially coming off of last season and his spat with the Texans, and he was just that wasn't right. So his rep count, okay, he's rested, he's healthy, 100%. Rejuvenated. He's where he wants to be, right? So kudos to Odell Beckham Jr. because I think we can all agree. We're all player advocates when it comes to getting your bag. 100% go and get your bag. Congratulations, Odell Beckham Jr. You got a team to almost pay your asking price. But from a Cowboy standpoint, in no version of the multiverse was I going to be okay with Odell Beckham Jr. at 12 plus, let alone 15 with a max of 18. I'm on record on the show and on every other podcast that I've been on saying I would have preferred a reunion with T.Y. Hilton over a more expensive Odell Beckham Jr.
Yeah.
So what do? You go and get Brandon Cooks.
Still want T.Y.
I'm fine. I still want T.Y. I'm glad you said that. Mailbag question this week. Does T.Y. Hilton still fit into this mix?
Yes.
I think he does, but from a player standpoint, having proven that you can still be an impact guy, you're healthy now, I think his value exceeds what his fit would be here in Dallas. So I think if you're T.Y. Hilton, you're saying, I can get more playing time and a higher salary somewhere else. Now, that higher salary won't be $15 million guaranteed.
Yeah.
But it'll be higher than what the Cowboys would pay simply because the Cowboys wouldn't need as much from him in 2023, so they wouldn't pay him as much. So from a player standpoint, I don't know that he would acquiesce to that. From a team standpoint, absolutely. Give me all the talent. Give me all the former Pro Bowlers. Give me all.
Do you really think that Dallas would lowball him much more?
I wouldn't call it a lowball. I wouldn't call it a lowball.
You're talking about T.Y.?
T.Y.
It's the value versus need equation.
Yeah.
So I don't think it would be lowballing. I think if you, from a player standpoint, he might view it as lowballing.
What would you give T.Y.?
2.
Okay.
I give him 2.
But
I think that's too low from his standpoint, and that's fair.
Here's my thing about T.Y. that people don't necessarily realize. This isn't Madden. This isn't just going and picking up a guy because he's on the street.
No.
T.Y. did not play in the regular season or for much of the regular season last year because he didn't want to. He wanted to be around his kids. He wanted to watch his family grow up. He wanted to be able to attend high school sporting events. He wanted to be able to live his life a little bit around his family. T.Y. came in ready to go.
Yep.
And credit to him for that.
Absolutely.
Veteran move, ready to go, came in and made an impact immediately. So with that being said, just because he came in ready to go and he made an impact, and the Cowboys, of course, loved him, and he came in and did what he needed to do and did his job, doesn't mean he wants to turn back around and go to training camp.
Understood.
Doesn't mean he doesn't want to go back around and go to the week one. So keep that in mind. Yes, if the Cowboys want him, go get him.
Absolutely.
Because I think as a veteran presence in that room, he helped. I think if you add him into the mix with a Brandon Cooks, a Michael Gallup, a CeeDee Lamb, that is a nasty, nasty trio. And you've got some young guys.
Plus the draft pick.
You've got young guys.
You'll probably grab one in the draft as well.
We'll see about that. That's going to be a topic of conversation in a second. But if you want to go get T.Y. Hilton, do it. But T.Y. Hilton's going to have to return that. He's going to have to want that. So don't think that it's cut and dry.
Does Kyle, do you want him?
Absolutely. Yes.
I do.
I do as well.
T.Y.'s dessert, guys.
Yeah,
he's the cherry on top.
He is.
He's dessert.
He's sprinkles, and sprinkles are for winners.
And you know, the thing is, he's dessert. End of the year, December, you need a guy. You call T.Y.
Yeah.
I like it.
Which I'm cool with.
Put on a
Third
t-shirt.
and 18?
Put on a t-shirt.
Put on a t-shirt.
He's the dessert. He's the thank you. T.Y.
In December, if you need a guy, call T.Y.
All right, so Patrick brought this up.
The main course.
Patrick alluded to this. But first, I want to hit the exact numbers on Odell Beckham's contract. $13.835 guaranteed at signing, $15 million average, up to $18 million in bonuses. He's only a $4 million cap hit this year, But then the Ravens are going to sprinkle that out over the next 4 years.
Sprinkle me, man.
Starting with next year, he may not even be on the roster, but his cap hit's going to be close to $11 million. So that's not going to be great. Dead cap of $11 million, that's a lot. But yeah, then on the other side, Brandon Cooks, he counts as $6 million against the cap, but that's half and half with the Texans.
Who's throwing him the ball?
We don't know yet.
They don't know yet.
It's either going to be Tyler Huntley, Lamar Jackson, or insert name here. Who really knows?
And reportedly, Lamar was in on trying to help recruit OBJ, but that doesn't mean that all is well
That ain't got nothing to do with my money.
Yeah.
That ain't got nothing to do with my money.
I mean, all is well suddenly in Happy Land. So
it's just a perk.
To answer your question, no clue, Isaiah. No clue.
So
Harbaugh. Harbaugh's going to be throwing the ball, too.
With the Cowboys' current wide receiver situation right now, you've got number 1, CeeDee Lamb. Number 2, Brandon Cooks. Number 3, maybe 2B if you really want to look at it however you want, Michael Gallup. And then you have these other names like a Simi Fehoko, who hasn't necessarily stepped up.
Let's talk about the guarantees. Those 3 plus Turpin, he's going to be there.
He'll be there.
That's 4.
Yeah. So usually you carry 5 receivers.
Active.
Maybe 6 if you have a special teams. So maybe 6. We'll think about 6.
Yeah, I'd say 6.
So
you got 2 spots.
Are you okay with where you're at right now, or do you go spend? And I'm not gonna say a draft pick. I'm gonna say a premium draft pick at wide receiver. Do you go get one of those Jackson Smith and Jigbas if he falls, or a Quinston Johnson from TCU if he falls? Do you go get a premium first round, second round, maybe even third round wide receiver like you did last year with Jalen Tolbert, knowing what you have back here at home?
With the addition of Cooks, I'm probably out on a first rounder.
Okay.
I'm not out on the second and third round. I'm certainly not out on the third because I'm not out on the second. So if the Cowboys stand pat at 58 and they grab one of these wide receivers at 58, I'm completely fine with that, because if you look at the Cook situation, it's not a long-term situation as we have this conversation. So you're going to, while you're about to be able to enjoy Cooks for 2023, you also need to have the duality of being able to look beyond 2023 and say, okay, who's going to be the long-term complementary piece for CeeDee Lamb? We hope it's Michael Gallup, but if we want to keep it as a 3-headed monster, because we know how effective and dynamic this offense can be with a 3-headed monster at wide receiver, then yes, you're going to need a post-Cooks plan right now, effective this April. So yeah, I'm completely fine with it in the second round, and most certainly in the third. The reason I would shy away from it in the first is because I'm still looking at, offensive line, for example. So knowing that, and if you're on the clock at 26, and let's just assume that Bijan is long gone. You're on the clock at 26, Bijan is long gone, and you have either Torrance or Avila still sitting there, you don't take a wide receiver. You got to put somebody in front of Dak Prescott to help protect that man. And then you circle back in the second round and you say, okay, well, what do we have here? And then you go from there.
Some of the second-round receivers on my board. Quentin Johnston is the top of that list. He's very much so a borderline first-round, second-round grade for me. Zay Flowers from Boston College, Rashee Rice from SMU, Jalen Hyatt from Tennessee, Josh Downs, North Carolina, Parker Washington, Penn State, and Marvin Mims from Oklahoma. There are options in the second round.
And you just named several who were a part of the Cowboys' official 30 visits.
Yep.
Jalen Hyatt, Josh Downs. I mean,
Downs. I don't think Downs was a 30 visit. I had Hyatt, Flowers, and I
have Downs
and Rice. Those were the 3.
Okay, I'll double check Downs. I do have Downs, but nonetheless, these are guys the Cowboys are interested in. And I think Downs confirmed at the combine that there was some interest, even if informal. So
sure.
Cowboys are looking. They're looking,
and they're going to get somebody. I don't think there's any question about that. The question is, that's 5 spots gone. Let's assume
5
at some point in time in the draft they're going to acquire a receiver. I think we all pretty much are in agreement with that. Okay, so that's 5 receivers of your 6. So now you got Tolbert, Simi Fehoko, and the rest of the committee that they acquire that is already sitting there on practice squad, and their guys that they're going to be acquiring onto their practice squad.
Yep.
Battling for 1 spot.
I love it.
1.
One.
I like it. I love it.
If you assume the Beamer situation where if you need a guy in December, you call T.Y.
Call for some dessert.
Yeah.
Go get your dessert.
You gesture for some dessert.
Exactly.
Which one of those guys? Which one of these younger receivers that you're hoping take a step up has the biggest possibility of taking a step up? Which one do you have the most confidence in?
The most confidence?
Yeah.
I'm gonna go with Simi.
Okay. Why is that?
Because I think that he's had a year to sit back and really appreciate what a role on special teams means to this team, and how he got a chance to sit there and watch Noah Brown. Kind of ascend and then obviously disappear based upon who's at quarterback. But he got a chance to see how long he stuck around doing one thing really well while you're still developing at receiver. And I think that this past year, having taken that off, right, rehabbing and working with Britt Brown and the rest of the rehabilitation squad, I think he's learned, if he hadn't already known, what hard work really is and what's required to compete at this level and stay on a roster, whether it's on this team or another team, right? I think that time is very important to sit back and just analyze where you're at and what value you present, because you recognize during that time that the train keeps moving. Right, so I'm not assuming that he came in with a big head or anything like that, but I'm saying I have spent a lot of time, and you recognize how minute you are in comparison to the grand scheme of things, and it gives you a greater appreciation for the opportunities that you have present to you.
Here's where I am, and my answer is also Simi Fehoko for slightly different reasons, but not entirely different. Been in the system multiple years. Mike McCarthy loves him. Dak Prescott, there's chemistry there. Hell, Simi even has chemistry with the backups. Okay. Simi Fehoko was one of the more dominant players in this last year's training camp. I mean, and you can attest to it, Kyle. Didn't it feel like every day Simi Fehoko was making a play of some sort?
Yeah. It also felt like there was every day he was making a mistake of some sort.
Fair.
Too.
So
it goes to the inconsistency.
I feel like if you put it, even if that considered, you put it all in a package, and it's hard for me to compare that to the struggles that Jalen Tolbert, for example, had in year one, and say Jalen Tolbert has the edge going into 2023 over Simi Fehoko, who, even with the mistakes, and he still needs to grow, and he's coming off of the injury, he's been in the system, he understands the quarterbacks, he understands the timing, and he's been developing, not simply as, because he came in as more of a speed guy, but he's learning how to attack the ball at the high point. He's getting better with running his routes, so you're seeing some development there. Whereas if you look at the others who'd have to fight with him to get that sixth spot, presumably, you don't have as many pros versus as many cons. So I think the lead horse for WR6 right now has to be Simi Fehoko, and I think that's going to be the case. And Fehoko, much like Tolbert and some of these other guys, he's in the Dak yard as well this offseason, working with Dak Prescott and now Brandon Cooks and some of these other guys. So I think the edge goes to Simi Fehoko for WR6. But if you're talking about one of the more interesting position battles going into the summer, like wide receiver, especially if the Cowboys do what we expect, which is draft a guy. Oh man, that's gloves off.
Yeah, it's gonna be real. And I think you also have to start looking at what value do each of those guys bring. You're talking about Simi Fehoko's more versed now in special teams. Yeah. Simi Fehoko also has a larger frame, okay, and he's more physical. So when you look at the receiver room as it stands, who's your physical receiver?
Probably Fehoko, 6'3", 220. I mean, that's probably your
guy.
What I'm
saying? Like Noah Brown was your physical guy.
Yeah, he was your get his hands dirty.
Exactly right.
Get up in a guy's chest
crack
plate.
Back blocks. Get in there, be in the wing position, block a D in.
Well, even think about just getting outside. Think about just getting on the outside and having a contested catch guy. You don't really have one of those on your roster right now. So if you're going to draft a guy, maybe that's where you look. Maybe that's the type of receiver, the prototype that you're looking at. True. Because you need that outside. How big is that from a quarterback standpoint of having different elements of receivers?
Yeah, different frames,
types.
different styles. Yeah, all that stuff matters. I mean, every situation presents something different, right? So you have an advantage and disadvantage in every situation, every play on every passing scheme. So you need to have a go-to guy. Sometimes I need to come in there and have a quick guy that I need to be able to beat a slot. Sometimes I need to beat a nickelback. Sometimes I need a route specialist, right? Sometimes I need a sure-handed guy. Sometimes I need a guy to just go up there and go grab that thing and just eat some cereal off somebody's helmet, right? It doesn't have to be the best ball, but if I put it up there, he's going to come down with it. So depending on the situation, you need the versatility of guys. There are very few teams in this league that have the same style of receiver. Very few.
Better look at Kansas City to make that point. Yeah. Kansas City, they get specialists at wide receiver. They get the speedster, they get the route runner, they get the tough guy who wants to get dirty and crack a chest plate. Yeah, so that I think the Cowboys, and this is something we kind of touched on a few weeks ago. It's interesting because I've seen the Cowboys start to borrow from a formula like what you're seeing in Kansas City, especially at the wide receiver position. And if you do that, the formula is proven, and that excites me. It's fine to do wide receiver by committee if your committee is elite in everything they specialize in.
Yes.
CeeDee Lamb is becoming elite, and arguably he is now elite in what he specializes in. Brandon Cooks is elite in what he specializes in, speed, taking the top off. Michael Gallup, if he can have a bounce back year, he's elite at eating cereal off of the top of a guy's helmet, okay? And then you add from there. So for me, I see what the Cowboys doing at this moment as eerily reminiscent of what the Kansas City Chiefs have been doing for years now. They lost Tyreek Hill in the trade, or not lost him because you trade the guy, you didn't lose him. So they trade Tyreek Hill, and everybody said, oh, well, the sky's going to fall. Patrick Mahomes is going to turn into kryptonite. Not so fast. What do? You bring in Juju, a guy who was he specialized in this particular thing, which complemented Mecole, which complemented Mecole, who specialized in a certain thing. Cowboys can stand to learn from that formula, and I think they are.
Ah, man, that's so interesting because I feel like if they were to follow that path, they would need to add one more guy, and it would be a physical-bodied wide receiver that's going to be a starting caliber guy on the outside, which there's a couple of those guys in the draft. But for the most part, and even reports coming out lately that aren't necessarily surprising, but it actually helps the Cowboys, is that the league isn't as high on this wide receiver class as the media is. Yeah. That there's thoughts that these wide receivers are going to start slipping. Maybe not the top guys. Maybe not the Jackson Smith and Jigbas, the Jordan Addisons, the Quentin Johnstons. But like that second tier of the names that I read off earlier, they might slip. This league, apparently the league does not like it, or that's what the reports are. The league is not as infatuated with these wide receivers as the media is. So if you get to 58.
Could that be subterfuge from just GMs?
And it's just going to boom. We're going to see a wide receiver run.
We've seen that.
You might see that, but to me, from Dallas's perspective, you might also see them, what we talked about in the last episode, go out there and acquire a big boy tight end. Just because of what this tight end
Say his
room.
name.
Yeah.
Say his name. Say his name.
But yeah, he's from your school.
Say his name.
He's from your school. But I'm saying that there are guys out there that they might go out there and acquire because of what Linda Wells has done with that tight end group historically. And knowing, getting versatile guys at that position group make it so that you don't have to have as deep of a receiving core.
That makes sense.
As
Say his names. Yeah. Darnell Washington, also one of the Cowboys' official 30 visits. I had a conversation with Lunda kind of off the cuff last week about Darnell, and Lunda's eyes lit up. Yeah. Big fan of Darnell Washington.
There you go.
So now, to be fair, there are a couple of other players that he's also a fan of the Cowboys, potentially looking into first and early second round. But that conversation was specific to Darnell, and I was just wondering, what was his feel on him, strengths, opportunities for improvement. And Lunda really, really likes what Darnell brings to the table, and he agrees that
How could you not? I mean,
a freak of a
talk about ceiling. It's hard to not like what he brings to the table. So, really interesting to keep in mind. All right, when we come back, we are going to take some calls.
Yes,
888-855-2297. The door is wide open. Whatever you want to talk about. We're called Talkin Cowboys for a reason.
So let's talk.
888-855-2297. Give us a call. We'll answer those phone calls and hear from Cowboys Nation when we come back right after this.
When you build, you start with the foundation. And home ownership is a foundation of a stable future. The Bank of America Community Home Ownership Commitment has helped over 34,000 people lay the groundwork so far, with up to $10,000 towards your down payment or 3% of the purchase price, whichever is less. The satisfaction of owning your own place can become a reality. Visit bankofamerica.com/homeowner to learn more. What would you like the power to do? Bank of America N.A. Equal Housing Lender. Credit and collateral is subject to approval. Restrictions apply. This is not a commitment to lend.
Little Sweet! Did you get to work on time?
Yeah, but I just realized it's Sunday.
Little Sweet says head on home. Dr. Pepper's on its way. So sweet, unique. Baby, there's nothing better. I bet you've probably done something that deserves a Dr. Pepper. Did you invest your nest egg in an NFT?
Yeah, and I don't even know what that is.
It's a non-fungible token. Everyone's done something that deserves a Dr. Pepper.
Todd thought it would be secure to jog in the cheetah savanna. Todd believed the big cat repellent he bought online was reliable. And now, Todd is trying to be faster than this cheetah that can run 80 miles per hour. But the good news is, Todd has AT&T 5G that is fast, reliable, and secure. And he learned the best thing to do is stop running and toss her the backpack with the beef stew. AT&T 5G. Fast, reliable, secure. It's not complicated.
5G requires compatible plan and device. 5G may not be available in your area. See att.com/5G for you for details.
Are you ready to take coffee off your grocery list forever? Black Rifle Coffee Club is here to help. As a coffee club member, you'll get your favorite coffees roasted, packaged, and shipped to your door free of charge on your preferred schedule. Set it, forget it, and never run low on coffee again. Members also get exclusive deals on coffee, products, and discounts from partner brands. Ease your mind and let Black Rifle worry about your coffee supply. Go to blackriflecoffee.com to join the coffee club today.
Back to Talkin Cowboys.
Hey, Isaiah.
Yes?
What are you doing this time of year? Are you doing a lot of reading?
Yeah.
Doing a lot of reading this time of day? What are some of the things that you're reading?
Oh, you talking about this thing right here, the good old Cowboy Star? I mean, you know what I mean, the draft? You had a big part in that, didn't you?
I did, yeah.
Oh, yeah. I've been reading this draft guide a lot here, getting ready for the draft here, Kyle. I'm really looking forward to it. It's really informative.
Yeah, that's the official 2023 Dallas Cowboys Star Magazine NFL Draft Guide. If you want to just call it the Cowboys Draft Guide, you can do that too.
That's fine, yeah.
Now available, this year's edition features scouting reports for more than ever and over 500 prospects listed in all. There are also features on the passion for football in Texas, the annual mock draft, and do the science yourself.
Science.
The science of selecting a running back is in the first round, and that's in the guide as well. Do your Cowboys draft with the Cowboys by getting your draft guide today, DallasCowboys.com/star.
Listen, that draft guide is biblical.
It is.
Like the amount of work that our guy Kyle put into that.
A to the Y.
Shouts out to Kurt as well.
Kurt Daniels, Michael Villarreal.
Yeah.
Man, everybody did a great job.
Everybody. And thanks, guys, for letting me tap in on that and get an episode of the Science Lab in there talking about
that was the first thing I read when I got
science.
it. You know, you get a yearbook, a lot of times the first thing you do is you flip to your own picture. That wasn't the case with me. I flipped right to your story and I read the
and that's funny
story.
because I'm like Erykah Badu, I'm sensitive about my so I actually flew right past mine. I went straight to your work. I went straight to yours. Let me see what Kyle is talking about.
Let me not read that.
Let me not read my.
You know what page I went to, Kyle?
Which one did you go to?
I went to find the centerfold.
You doggone.
And then he took the staple out.
Wrong Cowboys Star Magazine, bro.
I went to page 52, Kyle.
Oh, that's
you know what I
why
won
you
at
went.
26.
Yeah, you want a big
boy.
Won a big boy, big fella,
big boy.
Straight to the middle of the magazine, boys.
He's holding up a picture of Osiris Torrance.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a centerfold poster that you can rip out, unfortunately.
That's
but,
okay.
Yeah, maybe next year.
He's taking up the whole page.
Put it on that's literal. Yeah.
Man, how many of those would we have sold if we would have just put a big centerfold picture and it's Bijan Robinson edited into a Cowboys uniform?
Money. Easy money.
And it's just that it's just sold all those.
It's bait, but it's easy money.
It would be bait.
It's bait.
It would
but
totally
it's
be
easy
bait. All right, let's take some calls from Cowboys Nation, shall we?
Shall.
Start things off in the great state of Florida. Dan O is on the line. Dan, you're back on Talkin Cowboys. How's it going?
Good. How you guys doing?
We're doing great. What's on your mind?
Great. Well, I want to talk a little bit about the O and D line. Okay.
Okay.
I know Jerry Jones made a comment, something to the effect that Steele should be the swing tackle. I think that's a huge mistake. I think you got to have 73 out at left tackle. You got to get a guard. You got to get a real road grader in this draft, and there are several.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Patrick and some of you other folks have said taking a guard at 26 isn't the worst thing in the world. I totally agree with that. Matter of fact, that's where I would go. Biotis is solid. I think Zach Martin is Zach Martin. And everything I've seen and read about Terrence Steele is that he's making great progress in his rehab. Tyrone, I would give him his gold jacket. If he wants to be the swing tackle and can accept that position, I would go that route. But I don't see the sense in putting him in. He hasn't played an entire season since, I think, 2017. So we're talking, 5-6 seasons. the best, what's that saying? The best ability is availability.
Oh, yeah.
He isn't around that often. And I'd hate to see the continuity of that offensive line broken up for one piece of the puzzle. And then on the D-line, I got to be honest, I'm glad they got Hankins back. I mean, as I agree totally with Patrick. That man is the key up front. I wish we had gotten Carlos Watkins back. I really do.
Mm-hmm.
I think that is a big-time loss. Odigizua is solid. I think Chauncey Goldstein has got the ability, the potential to be something special inside. And that's just my thoughts. I'm not a Neville Gallimore fan. I watched every game. He seems to get washed a lot. I mean, if you remember that back-breaking throw to Kittle over the middle in the San Fran game, he's in coverage on the guy. Why? If you look at that, he gets washed down the line of scrimmage, turns around, sees Kittle, and he faces him. Maybe that's good, but I don't know. Anyway, that's just my nickel. I really think that I think the Cowboys. I'm tired of the Dak bashers. I'm so tired of them.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he played at an elite level. We have seen him play at an elite level. And I think two things. I do agree that making the change at the OC was necessary. And I also think Philbin, I don't think he was getting the most out of those guys. I don't know anything much about this new guy other than, he was with Tom Landry. Well, that's 50 years ago.
That was the offensive. That was the offensive line coach, by the way. That was with Landry.
Really?
Yeah.
Jeez, I don't remember that, but he's got to be in his early 70s at this point.
Yep.
I just don't know if that's a great fit. But again, I'm sitting here and those guys are sitting there making the decision, so that's something. But again, I just think grabbing a guard is the most important thing. I think I agree with the receivers. I'd love to see T.Y. Hilton back. I think Dak's got something going with him too, and I think you got to look at a comfortability factor.
Completely agree, Dan. Thanks so much for the call. Really appreciate you. And let's start with offensive line, because that's where he kind of wanted to go initially. And we've brought this topic of conversation up in terms of Terrence Steele. We've brought the topic of conversation up with Tyron Smith. Do you think it's all just a smokescreen? Do you think it's all just?
I hope so.
Playing games.
I mean. So.
Because it could be just playing that card just to kind of rile everybody up.
It could be, and we know as well as everyone else knows that Jerry Jones does love to stir the pot a bit every once in a while, keep the Cowboys' names in the headlines and at the water cooler as talking points, and hopefully this is what that is. Just logistically speaking, though, and we talked about this in detail a couple weeks ago, I just don't see how it makes great roster sense to demote Terrence Steele or try to move him inside, which is what some people are speculating might happen. I think Terrence Steele, he's proven that he's a really good starter at right tackle.
Yep.
And you keep with that. So if he's going to be on this roster, which it appears that he will be, and we'll see if, barring any kind of other team making an offer that the Cowboys don't want to match because the Cowboys have a second-round tender on him, they get a second-round pick, et cetera, et cetera. But assuming that Terrence Steele is still on the team come September and he's healthy and ready to go, he has to be your starting right tackle. Don't create issues where issues don't exist.
Yeah.
Because you already have issues to figure out. Guess what? Your left guard needs to be figured out. You need to figure out how you're going to do this Tyler Smith versus Tyron Smith thing. But on the left side, so on the right side, a healthy Terrence Steele plus Zach Martin, you got that side figured out. Don't go shuffling it unnecessarily.
Tyron Smith, by the way, since 2020, he's played in 17 games. Since 2020, that's 3 seasons. He's missed 2 entire regular seasons in terms of games, worth of games. He's missed 24 games in the last.
I'm not demoting Terrence Steele.
3 seasons. 24. Or that's not even 24. That's terrible math on my part. That's 34 games in the last 2 or 3 seasons, Isaiah. That's a lot.
It's a lot. And unfortunately, he can't help that. But when he's present, I don't think there's anybody who's had any complaints about his performance.
Nope.
He's an animal.
But that's a problem.
That's a problem, but that's what he can control, right? So as long as the Dallas Cowboys decide to keep him around, he's going to control the controllables, and that's performing well when he's on the field. Now, the other aspect, that's for the upper management to figure out in terms of what that situation looks like. But when he's called upon and when he's on the field, he shows up. Until they start talking about his play is falling off,
he gonna be around.
He gonna be around.
I mean, every time that he's played in at least double-digit games since 2013, double-digit games since 2013, he's made a Pro Bowl. That's all it's been. He even played 11 games in 2021, and he made a Pro Bowl.
He is stellar.
Yeah, he's a beast
when he plays.
But that's the biggest asterisk there. Quickly hit on the defensive line. He mentioned Neville Gallimore and how he's been disappointing. He's not alone in that sentiment. I think Neville Gallimore is under the microscope as soon as training camp is underway in Oxnard. He's going to be
heavily scrutinized.
Yes.
Understood. Yes. Because of the role that they had set for him to fulfill. I think they wanted him to be what Hankins is. I don't think they wanted him to be more of a penetrator than versus being a run stopper. You know, I think he's kind of fallen into the category of a penetrator now instead of being that big man that really locks things up in the inside. He's more so the latter than the guy that's actually holding things up and being a John Hankins. So I think that they're hoping that he kind of fulfills that role and kind of acknowledges that, hey, we don't need more guys getting vertical up the field. Like,
we got Osa, we got Chauncey.
Yeah, we have guys for that, right? Yeah. To the point we were just talking about in regards to offense. We need guys that can go up there and clog some things up and consume blocks. And if you can't be that guy, then to Kyle's point, you're going to be heavily scrutinized. And I hope that they address that in the draft again or in free agency again. But they need to add somebody behind Big John Hankins. They have to add somebody else.
I agree with that. No secret, I was and remain high on Neville Gallimore. And I can tell you what I think the problem is with Neville Gallimore. And I've said this before in a couple of Science Lab articles. He's a bowling ball. And with a bowling balls require momentum. So if you go back and you look at his film pre-NFL and in the NFL, the more reps he gets, the more momentum he gets, the more of an impact player he is. Once you start to reduce those reps, he loses momentum, and then when you put him in the game, you're not going to see nearly as much impact. Yeah. How Dan Quinn balances that going forward, knowing that he has so many guys that he can throw waves and waves of guys at opposing offenses, that's going to be the challenge. I have seen Neville Gallimore be an impact player, but his biggest plays, his biggest games he's had with the Cowboys and prior to coming to the Cowboys has been games where he's logged a lot of reps. Once he gets going, he's very hard to stop.
Yeah.
But until you get him going, he's not as hard to stop. So the talent is there, but he's very momentum based. So I refer to him as a bowling ball.
Juggernaut.
There you go.
I like that.
Yeah, juggernaut, Marvel style.
Yeah.
Once he gets going, there's nothing that's really stopping him. But if you get him standing still, then it's easy to keep him from moving forward. So that's the perfect analogy for Neville Gallimore. Now, as far as Carlos Watkins is concerned, the Cowboys tried to keep him, spoke with Dan Quinn not one day before Carlos Watkins went to the Arizona Cardinals. And then if you go and look at the Arizona Cardinals, the deal they gave him, 1 year of minimum deal, obviously the Cowboys were willing to match that, maybe even go a little bit over. It just seems like Carlos Watkins decided that it was a better situation for him in Arizona. Maybe he gets more reps because they clearly, at the defensive line, the interior, they don't have as many bodies vying for reps as the Cowboys do. So from a player standpoint,
I want to play.
It makes sense. He wants to play, and if the money is equal or similar, there you go. And he's going to another dome team in a warm climate. It's not like he's going outside to Green Bay. So from a Carlos Watkins standpoint, I get it. But the Cowboys and Dan Quinn specifically told me he was hopeful and optimistic after they got Hankins that they could keep Watkins, but Watkins made his choice. So kind of some clarity there. But Chauncey Golston, needle pointing due north, Osa Odigizua is coming off of a breakout season. So we can't look at Osa and say, okay, well, we feel like he can be, if you're a Cowboys fan, it's, we feel like he can take the next step. He's already taken a huge step, so you have to now be excited about where he can go from here.
Couple things on that. I mean, first, you got to also, and this adds to your point, but you got to remember that when he was drafted in 2020, Mike Nolan was the head of this defense. I mean, it was 1 year and then it was Dan Quinn. So he might have had a role change.
Yeah.
He might have been thought as a 3 technique, as a guy who can go sideline to sideline. I just went back and looked at my scouting report that I had him on him in the 2020 draft. Sideline to sideline for Neville Gallimore. I was like, he doesn't have bend. He doesn't have pass rush ability, but he's still somebody that's going to defend the run. He's going to plug up gaps. He's going to take up multiple gaps. Yeah. I love the bowling ball reference. I really do. And then the second thing on it is, if I were to say today what the pick would be at 58, I don't think it's going to happen at 26. I would put a strong feeling that it would be Mozzie Smith from Michigan. Interior defensive line, big-time one technique to come in and learn behind Jonathan Hankins. Yes. Really, Hankins. In my opinion, Mozzie Smith was the best run defender I watched in the interior defensive line in college football.
Love it, Cobb. We go first pick 1 and 2 with the big fellas on the inside.
Go watch him.
Be excited.
Go watch him for me. I'll send you some tape, Isaiah.
Yes.
I want you to watch him for me.
I will do that.
I want you to let me know what you think about it.
I would definitely.
All right, let's go to Brian in Iowa. You're on Talkin Cowboys. Brian, how's it going?
Hey, it's going pretty good. How are you guys doing this morning?
Doing great. What's on your mind?
Awesome. Well, I just heard you guys talking about Hankins. I think that was the biggest prize in the off season for the Cowboys, and I believe that the Cowboys are not done doing their due diligence in the free agency or a post draft.
Do you know something that we don't know? Or are you trying to drop a scoop here? What you got on them?
No, I think Jerry and Steven are working their will magic of being the genius of businessmen that they are, and showing the media that they're not afraid doing what they do best.
Okay, and how do you expect them to use that over the next couple of weeks?
I expect them to either trade up in the draft, or trade down to get multiple picks, to get more valuable players that they feel like could help the team to get to that next step.
Brian, I love this, and you just gave us the perfect transition into our third segment. Thank you for the call. We're going to take our second break. Brian in Iowa just set us up perfectly. Are the Cowboys going to pick at 26? Will they pick at 26, or are there other options available? We'll talk about it when we come back right after this with more Talkin Cowboys.
Todd thought it would be secure to jog in the cheetah savanna. Todd believed the big cat repellent he bought online was reliable. And now, Todd is trying to be faster than this cheetah that can run 80 miles per hour. But the good news is, Todd has AT&T 5G that is fast, reliable, and secure. And he learned the best thing to do is stop running and toss her the backpack with the beef stew. AT&T 5G. Fast, reliable, secure. It's not complicated.
5G requires compatible plan and device. 5G may not be available in your area. See att.com/5G for you for details.
Black Rifle Coffee Company serves premium coffee to people who love America. When you drink Black Rifle Coffee, you are directly supporting veterans, law enforcement, and first responders in your community. Black Rifle's expert roasters love coffee almost as much as Texas loves football, so it makes sense that America's Coffee partnered with America's team. Go online at blackriflecoffee.com and fuel up with the official coffee of the Dallas Cowboys. That's blackriflecoffee.com to fuel up today.
Lil Sweet! Did you get to work on time?
Yeah, but I just realized it's Sunday.
Lil Sweet says head on home. Dr. Pepper's on its way. So sweet, unique. Baby, there's nothing better. I bet you've probably done something that deserves a Dr. Pepper. Did you invest your nest egg in an NFT?
Yeah, and I don't even know what that is. It's a non-fungible token.
Everyone's done something that deserves a Dr. Pepper.
Want to use what the pros use? How about the official men's skincare brand of the Dallas Cowboys? Jack Black. Right now, you can get the Jack Black Starter, a curated collection of Cowboys locker room favorites for just $10 with free shipping. The starter includes 4 Jack Black skincare favorites, plus a full-sized intense therapy lip balm. Go to getjackblack.com/cowboys and use the code word TEAMJB. That's getjackblack.com/cowboys. The Jack Black Starter, $10, free shipping.
Back to Talkin' Cowboys.
Back here on Talking Cowboys, global superstars. Guys, wait for this.
I'm waiting.
Dolly Parton and Garth Brooks are coming together for the first time ever to host the Academy of Country Music Awards. Yeah! Join them live in person at Country Music's Party of the Year, going down on May 11th at Ford Center at the Star in Frisco. Very few tickets remain. Get yours before they're gone at SeatGeek.com.
You missed it. Here
I wanted to do it again. I wanted to hear Isaiah again.
Like, talk about two titans of their industry. Garth and
Dolly? I mean, are you kidding me?
Dolly.
I'm going to have to try and sneak into that one.
Deities.
Nobody heard that from upstairs. I'm watching. No, I'm going to sneak into that one. All right. Our friend Brian in Iowa set us up very nicely.
I like Iowa.
Isaiah, would you, if you were the Cowboys at 26, would you rather, and I'll keep it simple, trade up or trade down in this draft? What would you rather do? Trade up, spend some picks, go get a higher quality prospect, or pull the parachute, get out, and take in some high quality picks in return?
That's the only options I have, Kyle.
Only two.
Give me a double parachute for $3,000.
Wow, double. You're trading out twice? You're going to trade down to 34, and then you're going to trade down to 45?
The John Schneider approach. He trades out the 7th round. Go get some more.
Okay.
Go get some more. Not necessarily for this year, but for years to come. But I don't want them trading out. I think 26 is a good spot for what they need right now. I think they've done a great job positioning themselves for the 26 pick.
Okay, that's not a bad idea.
If Bijan is not there at around, and I've said it, if he's there still on the clock at 19, still available at 19, you're on the phone, you should be making some calls.
Okay.
Assuming he's gone, and I think he's going top 10, definitely top 15, pull the parachute, get out of there, because I feel like the odds of anyone you pick at 26, Avila notwithstanding, Torrance notwithstanding, will be there for you at 38, 39, and then you get back a pick, having already sent 2 picks away, which Kyle and I were laughing about before we got on, before we went hot, because you sent 2 fifths away, one for Gilmore, one for Cooks, and we're not saying that's a bad thing. Because it's not a bad thing. We're simply saying it's, objectively, it's the fact you sent away 2 picks, and we love the reason you sent those away. However, here's a chance to get a pick back and a +1 back. And again, you're not talking, I wouldn't double parachute. Like, no, we're not. No, we're not. But if you're talking about going from 26 to, high 30s, low 40s, get you another pick, still in a great position for early day 2, I think I'm completely fine with that. I know a lot of Cowboys fans who will be sitting around all night on Thursday waiting to see who the Cowboys pick in the first round just to find out that the Cowboys traded back. Will be very upset. But we've also seen that just because you're upset one day doesn't mean you won't be elated the next. Circle back to free agency if you need evidence.
Well, even last year's draft, too, a lot of people on Twitter were posting their reactions to Tyler Smith.
I would absolutely trade a fun day 1 for an electric day 2.
Okay.
Let me
That's
put it
fair.
that way.
And you mentioned a lot of names earlier, the 30 visit names. If you're looking at breadcrumbs with this Cowboys team, the way that they brought in those 30 visits, those prospects are early second round picks.
Yeah.
A lot of them are too rich for 58. They're not going to be there at 58, but they're also not valuable enough for 26.
You call them tweeners? Is that what you?
Exactly. So if you're looking at that, then that means trading down is a possibility to get multiple of those guys. Think about this. If you were to trade up, I've heard of a couple landing spots. 16 is one if they really wanted to go get up and try and get Bijan. Bijan makes it out of the top 15. Bijan Robinson, the running back from Texas, is there. It's 16. You get on the phone, you start making calls to try and get up to 16, 17, or 18. It's probably going to cost you your 26th overall pick, maybe a second rounder, and then maybe like a late round 6th rounder.
I was going to say you would have had another.
Let me ask you guys this
there.
question. At 26, this is for all S's and giggles, okay?
Yep.
You have an option to get Bijan or an option to get Avila.
It's not even like they're both at 26.
They're both at 26.
Sorry, Steve Avila, I'm out. I'm done.
Bijan at 26.
Yeah, no, I'm going straight to Bijan, and I'm running that card in.
The reason I've been out
Who's going to have a
on
longer career?
Bijan. I'm not even. I'm not even going to play that game. I think Bijan's a better player.
I would say I was out on talking about Bijan because in no world I see him available at 26. But in this scenario, if he's there at 26. What are we even talking about?
Backflips.
What are we even talking about? Seriously, what are we talking about?
Okay. I've heard some interesting things about
If he's
Steve.
there at 26, you grab Bijan at 26. Yeah, unfortunately, you lose out on Avila, and I'm huge on Avila, but you lose out on Avila. Then what you can do, though, is you can package to move up in the second round from 58, and you go back and you address the offensive line there. So now you got your electric running back, and you address your offensive line, and then you go from there and figure it out. But, yeah, no.
You don't like drafting a running back, do you?
I don't.
At 26, that's almost like getting Bijan in the second round.
I'm taking emotions out of it. I'm taking emotions out of it. I'm not saying
I
that
don't
you guys
have any
aren't. I'm not
emotions
saying
for
that you guys
Bijan.
aren't.
Trust me,
I'm
if you go watch the
I'm
film.
looking at it from. I get it. But he can only do as much as his
emotion.
offensive line.
My emotions are
But
with
he can
Darnell,
only
not
do
Bijan.
as much as his offensive line allows for.
His offensive line in Texas was absolute garbage. He still ran for 1,400 yards and 20 touchdowns. I think he's okay.
College.
Isaiah,
I think he's fine.
Ezekiel was kind of good in college too. So I mean, yeah. And
How long did he last here?
7 years.
Okay.
That's
and how long would a lineman last here?
Whoa.
Depends. Are we talking?
You see what I'm getting at?
Are we talking about Tyron Smith? Or are we talking about?
I'm talking about a Zach Martin. I'm talking about a Fredericks. I'm talking about what I'm saying. Like,
but Osiris Torrance and Steve Avila are not Travis Frederick and not Zach Martin.
It is more comparable to put Bijan up against the OSU version of Ezekiel Elliott than it would be to put Torrance or Avila up against a Zach Martin or Travis Frederick out of Wisconsin or Tyron Smith. It's those are two different conversations entirely.
I get it. But
I get it. So let me ask you this:
at 26, you're going with
in 26? Hold on, I got a question.
Over a need.
I got a question.
Yes,
I got a question.
If it's Bijan,
would you have taken Ezekiel Elliott at 26 overall if that was the scenario? If the answer is yes, you just answered your Bijan question.
I have to go back and look at what the roster looked like back then.
No, I mean in this scenario because again.
No,
Bijan.
I think it's easier.
Elliott.
I think it's easier to find a free agent running back than it is to find a dominant offensive lineman.
Agreed.
That's my only perspective.
I agree.
That's my perspective.
In a vacuum, that is 100% accurate. And there is no one who pounds the table more for RBs matter than me. Period. Hands down. That said, not all RBs are created the same.
Absolutely,
so what you
agreed.
will get in free agency is not always going to be what you might get if you have a shot at a Bijan or an Ezekiel Elliott. Could you have replaced DeMarco Murray with a free agent running back? Yeah. You got 1,000 yards out of Darren McFadden. But was Darren McFadden ever going to be for you what Ezekiel Elliott was for you in his prime? The answer is no. Is a free agent going to be what Bijan can be for you? No disrespect to any free agent. They all bring value to the table. But let's have a straight, honest conversation. The answer is no. So if Bijan, for whatever reason, is there at 26, that's the answer. That's the pick. Gotcha. But I don't see that he will be.
Oh,
so
yeah.
that makes all of this a moot
this
point.
is a super hypothetical. I just go by
I don't think it's out of the question. I really don't. And here's the thing. If you're a team in the top 10, you're having this exact same conversation. Because there are more dominant players in the top 10, top
That's
15.
a more difficult conversation.
That's what I'm saying. At 26, it should not be a conversation because, like you said initially, that's a second-round grade on a player for the most part. Bijan's a top 10 player in this draft.
Understood.
But because of the positional value, I don't think it's out of the ordinary that he does slip to 26. Do I think it's likely? No. Do I think it's possible? Yes. Absolutely. Now, I like I said, I agree with what your statement was, where it's easier to find a running back than it is to find a dominant offensive lineman. If you could guarantee me that Osiris Torrance, Steve Avila are going to be those dominant forces, they're going to be the Zach Martins of the world, then yes, give me those guys. But neither one of those are guarantees. There are knocks against both of their games. Bijan, it's hard to even knock his game because he was that dominant.
Listen, think about it this way. Think about it this way. Lamb, Cooks, Gallup, Ferguson, Hendershot, Pollard, Bijan with Dak at quarterback.
Stop him.
I dare you. Give it your best shot. Good luck.
I mean,
this is what you could, in your hypothetical, this is what you could have with a 26th overall pick?
I hear you. You know. New York Giants, Philadelphia Eagles, Washington Commanders defensive lines.
I knew it. I knew that was coming.
Do you know? I'm more confident. I'm more confident that Bijan will make an instant impact than I am. As much as I love Villain Torrance, than I am. You're talking to somebody who Villain Torrance will.
You're talking with somebody who played with like a physical specimen like Brandon Jacobs.
Mm-hmm.
If you get to him in the backfield, it doesn't matter how great he is. It doesn't matter how dominant of a physical juggernaut he is. If you get to him in the backfield, if you let him get past the line of scrimmage because the offensive line is blocking for him, now you got problems.
Isaiah, you're not
That's
wrong.
I know.
This is why I said
I totally get what you guys are saying.
double back in the second round, even move up and address your offensive line. I'm not saying ignore your offensive line. So for those that are listening, Isaiah is 100%. Isaiah is 100% correct. What I'm simply adding on is you don't pass on a value like Bijan, a top 10 pick at 26th. You say yes to that, you pull the trigger, and then you figure the offensive line out with the next pick. That's what I'm saying.
All right. What I'm saying is we got to get out of here before Bean kicks us out. But that's going to do it for us.
It's going to be Nate.
Yeah, Nate's going to come in here, and he's going to be talking about offensive linemen. He's going to join Isaiah's forces, and it's just going to be over for us. But that's it. All right. We had some fun. We had a lot of stuff today. We went all over the place.
Oh, yeah.
For Chris Beam, Isaiah Stanback, Patrick Nosey Walker, I'm Kyle Yeoman saying so long.
Rest in peace.
Oh, good catch.
Nabbit.
Yes. We recently lost a legend in the wrestling world. One half of the famous Bushwhackers sadly passed away. And as huge wrestling fans, and of course we'll do this for Rob as well, who is another huge wrestling fan, and we honor him every day with the Bushwhacker motion, and it just means that much more so now. So rest well, King.
Very well said. We'll see you next week on Talkin Cowboys.
This has been a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about this, Cowboys?